Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 86 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, and welcome back to episode 86. I am your host, Pamela Davis. If you are new here, hey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope you stay a while. If you've been here before, you know I love you deep. Thank you so much for continuing to support me on the journey. Your feedback, your encouragement, all of it just means the world to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Before we dive into this week's episode, you guys know how I operate. I'm very intentional, or I at least try to be. So I want to make sure that I am setting the right foundation for our time together this week because we're building a safe space. We're building a house. We got to treat it like that. So with that, I want to make sure that I am setting the right foundation for this. And our foundation is going to be rooted in clarity and love. Clarity, because I want to make sure that you understand why you're here, and love, because love is the thing. So let's dive in. With clarity, it's really pretty simple. I just want to make sure you understand what the Well Done Life is about. The Well Done Life podcast is a safe space for women. I created this space because I really felt like as women, we don't really talk to each other enough. I know that we're all on social media and all those great things, but I don't really feel like we get an opportunity to sit down and share our stories and to really kind of connect with each other because, Lord knows we're super busy. So I created the Well Done Life because it's an opportunity for me to spotlight amazing women who have had so many journeys and experiences in their life. And as they're trying to do everything that they can to live their best life, as well as being impactful in the community, I want to share their stories because I feel like there's an opportunity for each of us to glean something from them that could change our life, that can maybe help us overcome a problem, that can encourage us to start a new thing. I mean, there's just so much that can happen from the power of connection, from the power of conversation. So that's what this is about. It's about connecting and giving us a chance to converse and really learn from each other and grow. As women being the foundation of society, it is so important that we pour into each other. So that's what we do here at the Well Done Life. We pour into each other, we learn and grow together. So now that we've kind of taken care of clarity and hopefully you know why you're here and you've decided that you want to stay, I want to make sure I dive into my favorite thing because like I said, love is the thing, y'all. So love. With love, I really feel like we don't really pray enough for each other. We don't really support each other enough and encourage each other. It's not intentional in all situations, but I want to be intentional with you guys. So I want to make sure that I am sending each and every one of you prayers. I really do believe that when two or more people come together in prayer, great things happen. So I want to make sure that I am being that catalyst for you. So let me this week send you prayers of peace. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but we're in the fourth quarter. We're in the end game, y'all. There is less than 60 days left until the end of 2021. So I want to make sure that as it gets into this hectic time, that you are surrounded by peace, that you are surrounded by an opportunity to reflect and to be able to just nurture yourself. I'm sending you prayers of good health and prosperity during this time. We get pulled in a lot of different directions, and I want to make sure that you end this year strong. And I want you to also end this year with an opportunity to, like I said, sit down and reflect and think about how you want to end 2021 and think about how you want to go into 2022, because this is a time of unending abundance. So I want to make sure you're equipped to receive that abundance, as well as I am sending you lots of prayers of love, of course, because again, this time, outside of all the craziness, it is a great time for love. Many times we get an opportunity to connect with our family and friends, and hopefully you have a lot of those moments because love is the thing. So now that we've kind of definitely set the foundation, I hope, with some clarity and love, let's start to dive into this week's episode. It's funny. I'm really excited about being able to sit down and record with you guys tonight. I am recording on Tuesday, November the 2nd. A little early for me, but I'm trying to mix it up. I want to stay consistent. After last week's episode with Tara Pringle Jefferson, I'm trying to be much more intentional. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, it's called Welcome to the Self-Care Suite. I definitely would recommend that you listen to it. Tara is amazing, and she really prioritizes self-care in her life, and she really is very effective at how she manages her time to be caring and nurturing to herself. So that is why I am making the decision to hopefully start a pattern where I record on Tuesday nights, so that way it gives me time to properly prepare for you a good episode, as well as the fact that it's also a time where my family is not screaming in the background or having little fights or talking about little things. Because, y'all, I'm a caregiver. I don't have kids, but sometimes being a caregiver to a 74-year-old and my sister, it can feel like I am refereeing a fight. So definitely, hopefully this time, your only voice and interruptions and noise that you will hear will be from me. So I'm very excited about that. We're going to get some good sound quality. So just, again, little things that you have to do to preserve your peace, but also preserve the quality. So like I said, though, if you haven't listened to that episode, it's a great one. I definitely would recommend it. But this week I kind of wanted to, like I said, lay the foundation, because I think it's really important that as we are in this time where we are looking at the last 60 days of the year, that we do kind of give ourselves this time to reflect. And while we're in the midst of all the holiday shopping and planning with our family, but you have to reflect. You have to give yourself that time to really focus. So I'm setting a precedent that going into these last few episodes of the year, it definitely will be about kind of slowing down a little bit and laying this time for reflection, because I want us to be really set up to win, to be able to receive the unending abundance. And there are some things that we have to do with ourselves in order to make sure that, our soul is aligned, our spirit is aligned, our thinking is aligned, to help us as we move forward into the new year. It's funny, I've talked to a couple people and they've already been telling me, oh, I've already got my word of 2022 together and I've got all my plans together. And I'm like, that is just so wonderful. I'm still myself a little bit distracted by my job and my family, that I really haven't given myself that time to focus. And I know it's harder during the holidays to do it, but I'm going to prioritize it. And I want to share how I'm going to prioritize it so that you can be encouraged to do that as well, because there is always time for you. As we learned last week, in our episode with Tara, she is so intentional to the point where she prioritizes space in her home, and her children understand, and her family, that is a space that is just for her. She's also very focused in regards to how she processes information. So she only has meetings around certain times. I just loved the intention. I loved the ownership for her self-care. And I want us to really start to align our thinking in that way, because a lot of times we focus so much on self-care in regards to massages and all those things, and that's part of it, but there's so much more. So I definitely, like I said, want to make sure that I am laying that foundation as I go into the end of this year myself and going into 2022. So I'm dragging y'all along with me, but we're going to have fun and learn together. And so and I'm also going to make sure, like I said, I link that episode 85, the self-care suite, in this show notes, because if you haven't listened, I definitely would recommend that you do. But for this week, it's kind of funny. I wanted to talk about something that I have been reflecting on. And it's so weird how it always came about that I decided that I wanted to talk about this, because I was surfing, of course, on social media, because that's what I do when I'm trying to decompress. And one of the things that I came across was this post by an influencer. And I'm not going to list her name, but I'm just going to kind of give you guys some highlights of this post and just how it kind of struck me. And I think it may strike a lot of us, because I'm sure I am not the only person who can identify with this. So let me give you a little bit about it. So essentially, what she's saying in this post is that she has been experiencing more friends telling her lately that she has not been present in their life. And she's a low maintenance friend, and it's always hard for her to fully grapple with what it means to be present in someone's life. And she assumed that for the most part that her friends knew that the type of person that she was is that, she's busy, but that she would drop everything to make sure that they're taken care of. And she always made it a priority to try to show up for the big moments in their lives and small ones. I mean, she even broke it down to the sense that her loyalty is so strong for her friends that if, her love interest disrespected them, she would drop them as a friend. But she's just not the everyday friend. She's not the I'm going to talk on the phone friend, the text friend. And she says, sometimes her distance is not intentional. It just comes from her overworking herself. And so she just feels like, avoiding a sometimes physical or mental issues is just an after effect that has been stacking up because of the fact that she's overworked herself. And so she said today was when she wrote this post, and this post is over a week old. It was the third conversation that she had with a friend over the span of 10 days. And she said it's exhausting, and that she was going to be devoting her next therapy session to figuring out how to stop her hurtful healing process from interfering with cultivating friendships. And, she's like, right now, she ended it by saying, this adulting shit is not easy. And when I read it, and like I said, I kind of skipped over some parts of it just for privacy's sake. But when I read it, I totally felt her on so many levels because, I feel like I probably should introduce myself like this. My name is Pamela Davis, and I am a low maintenance friend. And let me kind of preface it by saying I wasn't always the low maintenance friend. And, talking about the low maintenance friend, I think there's a lot of misconceptions around it. So, of course, being the foundational chick that I am, I had to go and define what the low maintenance friend is. So by defining it, it's the friend that you don't need to call every day to know what they're up to. It's the friend who you understand has a life outside of you. It's the friend who works a lot or may have moved away, but remembers just how important you are to them, even though your relationship is changing. That's one of the definitions I found about a low maintenance friend. And like I said, I'm Pamela Davis. I'm a low maintenance friend. And I wasn't always a low maintenance friend if I think about it. I think as I have gotten older, I've shifted more into low maintenance. And I think part of that, if I was just truly being honest, it was brought on by, unfortunately, I would say some of it trauma from being a caregiver and how everything happened so dramatically in my life. It's an after effect of my trauma. And then part of it also is the after effect of having friendships where I didn't feel that there was reciprocity because I wasn't 100% transparent during that time about what I specifically liked and disliked or needed from that friend. So I think part of that also triggered into it. So let me explain that. And probably, because I'm sure that probably sounds crazy. And yeah, but I was traumatized. So as someone who was traumatized, I with my life situation when everything sort of happened and I became a caregiver so suddenly, I just was so overwhelmed trying to manage that situation that I didn't have the bandwidth to be able to really go out and start cultivating a lot of friendships. I was just in survival mode. And I have spent probably out of my over 10-year journey, I would at least say I've spent probably the last 6 to 7 years, the first 6 to 7 years of it in survival mode, because I was just trying to keep all the balls juggling in the air. That was really, to me, my mindset during that. And during that time, at the same time, like I said, I had friendships that fell apart. And they fell apart just because it wasn't 100% of the blow-ups that we had. It was 100% I would say the fact that there were a lot of unspoken things that we weren't addressing in our friendship, and it just came to a head and fell apart. So that's part of it. And I think a lot of the times even if I was really being honest, that's trauma too. So that partly could be it. And then, like I said, it also evolved as I got older, because that's not necessarily all the trauma. It also became a part of the fact that as an adult, you're overwhelmed, you're overworked. There's so many different aspects of your life where you're pulled in so many directions that it becomes really hard to be able to cultivate friendships. So, being the low maintenance friend just naturally starts to come into play. And like I said, I am a low maintenance friend, and I do agree with some of the characteristics that I mentioned in that definition, which is just one of many. I think there's so many definitions of it. But I think typically it's just the friend that just doesn't call a lot. I don't have the patience or the time anymore to sit on the phone every day and talk to someone. I just don't have it. Because I'm so already in my mind overwrought sometimes that I'm like, I don't have it. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means I don't want to. And especially now I think about it during COVID, where I know for myself, I work remote. I'm constantly on Microsoft Teams or Zoom. So after work, it feels like torture to try to get back on some type of digital device sometimes and have conversation. And again, it doesn't mean I don't love you, don't care about you. It's just like I'm overwhelmed and I need a break. And then at the same time, as a low maintenance friend, you really just want to make sure that people understand that you care. Because again, we don't need a lot. We've come to realize that we could just kind of navigate through. We just need a little conversation here and there. We're a lot of times as the low maintenance friends, we're in survival mode. We're working, we're doing so many things, but that does not necessarily mean that we won't be there for you. That's the counteractive part of it. When we are as a low maintenance friend, 9 times out of 10, we'll drop everything. If you need us, we're there for you. And, I think being a low maintenance friend is hard. It's hard for the person that is dealing sometimes with a low maintenance friend and they're not, because and I'll even take that first. I'm going to talk about both, about being the low maintenance friend and then also about people who deal with us. So let's talk about the people who deal with us as low maintenance friends. Because from that young lady's post, she is having tons of conversations with people who are coming to her talking about the fact that she is not a present force in their life. And I could only imagine if I was a friend who needed more time, needed more energy, how hard that must feel, because you want to connect with this friend. You miss your friend. You miss those conversations. Because like I said, at one point in my life, I was not always a low maintenance friend. I was that friend who made phone calls every day and talked to my friends on the way to work or checked in on them all the time. And it is, you create habits with that. And it's not a bad habit. It's just, you created that space where they feel the connection to you, being able to talk to you, being able to, reach out. It's just, it's that bond. And so all of a sudden to have that bond slip away, I can only imagine that's got to be hard. And you start to wonder, did something happen in the friendship? Did something change? And a lot of times I think for the friend who is dealing with a low maintenance person, they forget to ask, and I'm not even going to say you forget to ask. You don't want to ask. Because essentially, sometimes you could be scared that maybe something is different in your friendship and you're not ready to face it. Or you just, because you're also doing things and going through life, you forget to, question it. It just starts to become like, okay, this friend is kind of moving back away from me maybe, or you misinterpret, their lack of response about certain things, or the way that they're different in their response now, and you just allow the space to come into the friendship. And we all know that when space comes into a friendship, it is really difficult to be able to pull yourself out of that space, because if you don't address it instantly when you notice it, the space just becomes wider to the point where you don't really have the same connection that you used to. And unfortunately, that could be the beginning of the end of your friendship. So it's a hard process. So I sympathize completely with that. But then on the other side, like I said, I am the low maintenance friend. And I'm trying to think back into when I've had someone ask me about my level of friendship. And it was a few years ago that I had a conversation with a friend of mine about it. And how I explained it was that, it doesn't mean that I'm not really here for you. It just means that I just don't have the time and energy sometimes to call every day. And I'm just not. I just don't have it. I'm at that point in my life where, yes, this is what I said. I'm at that point in my life now where I don't feel like my friendship should have to take work. I don't. I feel like that my friendships should be able to naturally ebb and flow. And I would hope that you would know that based upon our experiences and how I regard you, that if you were to ever need me, I would always be there for you. Whether I talk to you every day or not, I will always be there for you. And hindsight being 2020, looking at that as a person who is telling that to someone who had a connection where, they're used to more interaction with me and they're used to more connection, I have to admit that probably was really hard for them to receive, because it's like all of a sudden, you gave me a toy and now you want the toy back. And I just got to deal with it because that's how you get down. Because essentially where I was at that particular point in time, that's exactly how I felt. It's just like, and I have to admit, has that really changed so much? Not really, because it's just something that I had to set up as a boundary in order for me to be able to function. I had to be very honest about what my expectations with friendship were. That I don't expect it to be work. Yes, I understand, you would want more communication with me. You would want more openness with me, and I'll do my best. But I'm going to be honest with you. This is the level of comfort that I have with certain things, and this is how it's going to be. So essentially, I set my boundaries. And setting your boundaries, especially when you're a low maintenance friend, is never easy. Because again, we don't need much. We don't require much. But at the same time, we understand that you might require and need more than what we are capable of doing and giving. And that can lead to an impasse in a friendship. And it can be hard for that person to be able to accept that. Our friendship is going to have space, or may have to move apart if you're not able to adapt. And then as a low maintenance friend, you are racked with guilt because you wish that you could be more to this other person, but you can't, because unfortunately you're just at that point in your life. And I'm not even going to say it's an unfortunate thing. I just don't think it's not unfortunate. It's just I've made the decision that there's only so much I'm going to be able to do where friendship is concerned with this person. And it doesn't mean that I love you less. It just means that this is where I'm at, because I know, like I said, for me, just speaking in context, as a low maintenance friend, my family is my number one. Like they do. My mom, my sister, they are my hearts. They are literally everything to me. So I pour into them because you're right. I see them every day and I'm with them all the time. So they get the crust of me. And then at the same time, for my friends, I'll try to connect as I can. Like, sometimes during the week, I'm not going to lie, work gets overwhelming and I could have things that I have going on at home. So it is really challenging for me to connect all the time with my friends. And I do hold myself accountable to think, oh, you could do better and you have to do better. And I will try. But at the same time, I've also set that boundary with myself where I know there is only so much that I can do every day to be constantly in connection with my friends. But I try to make sure that I'm always reiterating to them that if you need me, just give me a call. I'll be around. Don't hesitate to reach out and text me. I will answer your phone call. I will be there for you. It's just I can't wrap my arms around you all the time, every day, because I give of myself so much between work and my family and other things that I don't have enough energy sometimes to be able to, add more into the space. And that's not about you. It's about me. It's a coping mechanism. Because see, as a low maintenance friend, yes, you don't need a lot. But that means that sometimes you have to expose a lot more. You have to be much more open about why your limitations are in place, and make sure that you are reaffirming your friends as much as you possibly can so that they understand where you're coming from. Because the guilt is real. As you saw in that post that I was kind of read to you guys, that young lady was really carrying quite a bit of guilt about, not being able to be as present as her friends would have liked her to be. And I've been there, I understand. And sometimes I still feel guilty. I do. Because sometimes, my friends want me to do certain things with them, and I'm like, no, I can't do it. And it's not about you. It's not that I don't care about you. It's not that I don't want to be in the same space with you. It's just I don't have the energy to give out like that. And I've come to this point in my life where I've learned that I have to cultivate my energy. So that means that sometimes I'm just going to be the low maintenance friend. I'm cool. But I think it just also comes to pass as a low maintenance person that we have to remember that it is okay for us to extend grace to ourselves. The same grace that we give to other people when they, are giving us feedback about how we should be more present, or just in general. We have to extend that grace to ourselves, and we don't, because like I said, the guilt sometimes starts to overwhelm you, and you wind up allowing yourself to do certain things or go certain places because you're trying to make your friends happy, and you're making yourself miserable. Because as I mentioned before, I was not always the low maintenance friend. Before I was that person who was constantly doing it. And all I would say to you is, if in the back of your mind, in your heart, in your soul, that you know that you're doing things to make your friends happy versus what you want to do and what makes you happy, you're going to have to limit that, because eventually you will hit the wall and burn out, and you're going to be the low maintenance friend. Seriously. Because, adulting does not get easy, especially as we start to get even more into our journey as adults, and you start to deal with the challenges of life. You're just not able to prioritize sometimes the things that your friends think that you should prioritize, because your energy levels just will not let you. So it is just very important to that. But I will say, one of the things that I am trying to do more, and this kind of ties into why I want to talk about this at this particular time, as we are going into this last, less than 60 days of 2021, we really have to think about, how we plan on going into 2022. And before you do that, you've got to look at how did 2021 go. I think a lot of us in these last 2 years, we have all in a way become low maintenance friends. You're not able to be as connected as you were, or maybe you were cool with lots of Zoom calls and chats. But I know from myself, I probably became even more low maintenance just because my energy levels wouldn't allow it. So I've made the decision, as I am starting to reflect and do more, I'm trying to make sure that I am positioning myself to be more present in my friends' lives. I'm not the person to text or call every day. It's just not going to happen. But I'm trying to make sure that in my mind, I try to prioritize reaching out to my friends more. And, via text messaging, I'm really like one of my friend groups, We have a little text circle, which is great. I have another friend I call, it's not every day, maybe I call every other week or every 2 weeks, to check in on how she's doing. I'm trying to position myself better to be more present. And like I said, I don't think it's perfect. I haven't asked how they feel about it. I'm just kind of giving myself the critique, because I know that I am typically my harshest critic, that I am trying to give more of myself that way, because I know that even though we're not, hanging tough like we all used to, that at least I can call, at least I can be present. The Zoom calls, we tried it for a while, and it kind of fell off, because like I said, I'm on Zoom and Teams every day during the week, so I have no desire to do it any other time outside of that. So it's just, luckily I think my friends have kind of been very cool about it, and like they understand. And I think that just kind of prioritizing having more check-ins, if it's text or a phone call, what have you, I think that will help. And then also, as now the COVID numbers are continuing to decline, thank goodness, we are starting to get a little bit more out in the streets. So like one of my friends, friend groups, we actually have been setting up where we meet up for like dinner, like once a month, for the past few months. And it's been great, because that gives us a time to connect. And it's like scheduled time. We try to work with each other's schedule. We really think about, where we can go and try to do different things where we can, to just connect with each other and fellowship. And even though we may like still have the text going on, we are at least getting a chance to see each other physically, to hug, and reconnect with each other. So I think I'm going to do hopefully more of that as the COVID numbers continue to climb. But I say all those things to say that I'm challenging myself to be more available, definitely trying to do that. And at the same time, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm learning to give myself grace for the distance in some of the friendships that I had. And I think part of it, again, is my low maintenance. Part of it is also COVID and just life in general. I'm giving myself grace to understand the space. And I'm giving myself grace to recognize that just because of the space being there, it does not necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. That maybe they're becoming more low maintenance just like me. And when we see each other again, we'll pick up like there's no time has been lost between us. I think more people kind of need to prioritize that. Just understand, don't jump to conclusions. Give yourself grace. Extend the grace that you extend to others to yourself, to realize that just because there's silence does not necessarily mean that there is an agitation, that there is a disagreement in between you. It just could be life. And if you just reach out and try to connect with someone that you want to talk to, you'd be very surprised. They would probably welcome the opportunity to reconnect with you. You can make it as simple as a text. I mean, we don't have to get overly complex. It doesn't always have to be phone calls. It's just a matter of giving ourselves that opportunity to slowly start to, put ourselves out there more. I mean, we are on the heels or in the midst, or I don't know where we are with this pandemic, panini as I like to call it. But one thing I do know is that I was socially awkward before. I'm probably even more socially awkward now, because like I said, I'm low maintenance. So could you imagine how low maintenance I can really be during this because of the pandemic? I'm not the only one. And you got to think about it. Some of your friends who were previously so, more present and have different expectations. Their expectations might have changed some because of everything in the pandemic. We all were forced to sit down. We were all forced to become a lot more creative in how we connect with each other. I think it's just a matter of giving yourself that space to receive it and to be able to connect like that. But one thing that I am going to do to try to help me going into 2022 is I think I'm going to ask my friends to take the love languages test with me, because that will help me be more intentional in my interactions with them. And if you're not familiar with The Love Languages by Gary Chapman, I will definitely link it in the show notes. But it's this test that kind of gives you an idea of how people show love and how they like to receive love. So it could be words of affirmation, acts of service, it could be quality time, it could be physical touch. I believe there's only 4. I'm trying not to Google and create a whole bunch of noise, but if I miss one, I'll make sure I add it in the show notes. But either way, it's not just for romantic relationships, which is how typically people associate the love languages. There also are tests where you can do it in regards to with your family as well as in your professional life. And I think that it's important that as I try to navigate my low maintenance and hold myself more accountable to understanding how my friends like to receive love, how they like to be connected, how they feel valued and reaffirmed, that I think doing something like that, which would be fun, and it will just help me get more insight. I think I know most of their love languages, but like I said, I mean, the panini is changing lives out in the street, so God only knows what their love language could be. And it's a great activity, and it's just a fun way for us to kind of create some dialogue. So for all my friends who are listening to this podcast, you've got a heads up. Yes, you know that I will be asking you to do the love languages, because like I said, for me, one of the things that I am reflecting on is how I just want to move forward and how I want to connect with people in 2022, as just well as it will help me be more well-rounded. Because I think ultimately what we're doing is kind of giving space for us to accept who we are. Like I said, I'm that low maintenance friend, and the likelihood of me changing that is probably not going to happen. I think I will grow to be more understanding and more present because I'm actively trying to be more present. But I was born from 2 low maintenance people. My parents did not have a ton of friends, and they still had they have a set close few, and that's just how they connected with each other. And I've just kind of adapted into that, I feel. But at the same time, and I'm cool with that at the same time, but I'm also going to give myself the space to be able to set those boundaries properly with my friends so that they understand that where I'm coming from is rooted in love, and give them the opportunity to show me what they need so that I can incorporate that into my approach with them and how I show my friends love, because I love them so much more. And I think that's so important for us. And those are little things that we can do as people who are trying to adult in this crazy world, because it's not going to change. We're always going to be busy. Like I mentioned earlier, as adults, as we get a little bit older, we just get a little bit more busy. And so you have to be able to really look at how you connect with people and how you want to connect with people, because that's the key. Like as a low maintenance person, I'm not making an excuse for how I am. I'm not upset about how I am, but I am also making the decision to say that I understand that not everyone in the world is the exact same way that I am. So I need to create space within myself so that I can learn and grow and continue to build my friendships. Because that's always one of the things that I hear. You know, being an adult is so hard. It's so hard maintaining relationships as an adult. And it is. It truly, truly is. But okay, that we know that, then how are we able to look at ourselves and change some of our approaches? Or what little things can we do that will help us be more present in our friends' lives, which in turn will help them maybe be more present in ours. And it just creates this beautiful reciprocity that is going to carry us through and help us have these lasting relationships that we have all dreamed and aspired for. So I think it's just, like I said, really important that we look at that. Give yourself that space, but also give yourself the opportunity to learn. You are capable of growing and building and having loving adult relationships. So it is. It's really that simple. And it's the perfect time. I mean, hey, last 60 days of 2021, you guys, we can start to create some amazing habits together. So I hope you kind of like that conversation. And I really, like I said, I think it's just important that we begin to it kind of acknowledge and accept of who we are, the low maintenance people that we are. It's okay. We're standing up with the clique, but just because we're low maintenance doesn't mean that we don't love our friends or that we don't love ourselves. We just have to strike the balance and help everybody understand why we're there. So that's what this is all about. So as we're wrapping up, I wanted to also make sure, like I said, I kind of alluded to it in the beginning, that this is what the next 60 days is going to be about. This is about, focusing on reflecting, slowing down, and how we are going to go into 2022 with intention. I know I have so many things planned for you guys going in 2022. Some big things that I've already been working on, and I'm very excited to bring them forth. And I want to make sure that we are taking this time and really being intentional. So during these next couple of weeks, like I said, I will definitely hopefully be laying foundations for you and giving you tips and advice that will help you be able to start your year off on the right way and end 2021 strong. I will be podcasting all the way up through December the 12th consistently. I have no plans to take any time off during that time, because from December the 12th until January the 9th, there will be no new episodes. That will be my time to shut down and reset. I will be taking a complete social media break during that time, because I have decided that 2021, I'm ending it off with pure intention. So I'm just laying that out there so that everybody knows. I will make sure that I reference some of the Dr. Gary Chapman test, as well as I'll put the definition for low maintenance friend and some of the tips that we talked about in the show notes. I am really excited about being here at this particular point in time with you guys. This is just such a really pivotal moment for us, and we're going to end this year off well. I hope that you will please like, share, subscribe, review. I'm trying to grow, y'all, so all your feedback means everything to me. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me on the socials. Don't hesitate to email me. I read every email that you guys send me. I take it into consideration. I build and I make changes, because I'm a work in progress. That's what we are. We are works in progress on the journey to the well-done life. So please don't hesitate to continue to share with me. I will definitely be back next week. I look forward to talking to you guys again. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will talk soon. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.